Danielle, take 1 mark. Marcella, take 2.
Hopefully, thank you.
Hi, I'm Naomi Mizushima, and I'm a member of NAMI and in treatment for PTSD. Yeah, actually, how I got started with NAMI was when my son attempted suicide. That was 12 years ago. And at that time, I just kind of did what a lot of Asian moms, I guess they do, is just like sweep it under the rug and forget about it or hope it goes away. 12 years later, my son started having, suicidal thoughts. And so I thought, oh my God, this is not going to go away. So I decided that I needed to get educated because I had no idea what it was or what was causing that. I started calling around, and that's where I found NAMI. And I attended the NAMI Christmas party, and I also attended a support group. They sat me down with the NAMI Japanese-speaking group. I joined their group and became a volunteer with the Japanese speaking NAMI because I speak Japanese as well. So, I was attending all these NAMI support groups and events, and one of them was meditation. And so I attended the seminar, and ever since then I started actually meditation, and it helped me tremendously. And one of the things about meditation is that it helps you look at things and recognize it, and not like throw it, under the rug, like what I was doing. And so from then, I started recognizing a lot of things that I was suppressing. One was, it happened after my father died. So when my father died, I realized that there was a lot of suppressed anger and resentment, towards my parents. And my sister, she wanted to write this book from a diary that my father wrote. And the diary definitely showed that he had severe personality disorder. And I began to realize that there was some issues, underlying issues that nobody spoke about. And it had a lot to do with the Japanese culture, because we don't really speak about things like that might hurt the reputation of the family. And my father was an elite physics professor from Japan, and my mother also was from Japan, so I'm second generation. So I was brought up by post-World War immigrants, and out in the middle of nowhere. It was Boulder, Colorado. It was really difficult, for me and my sisters. I have 4 sisters, and for me in particular, it was very difficult. And my younger sister, because we didn't fit, into the model minority myth, which is what I realized that I was playing along, this game of pretending that we're this elite, prestigious family. Because just to tell you a little bit about my father, okay? So my father, he was one of the selected scientists, after World War II, when America was recruiting all these scientists and people like that, from engineers from Japan as well as Germany. So my father was one of them. And so he got selected to go, and he was given the VIP treatment. So he literally thought that he was kind of like a godlike type of figure, because that's how in Japan they saw that America was like heaven, type of thing. And anybody who is related or lives in America, in particular of his status, that he was seen like a kind of like a godlike type of figure. I saw a lot of that, in our family. Like the Japanese, when they come visit, they would like bow down to him, and they were really respectful. I understand that now. Now I understand. But then I was just a little kid, and I didn't understand why he was treated that way when, in fact, that there was a lot of issues in the family. And there was abuse and psychological, physical abuse. And my sister, she wrote a book, or she wrote the transcript, and she basically said in the book that she was sexually molested. So that actually triggered, it was like PTSD, where I started seeing these video clips. Sorry. So I sat across the table, the kitchen table, from my sister. And I would see a lot of things that just didn't make any sense, abuse. And I would see that in my head over and over and over. That and other clips, would just play in my head. And I couldn't understand it. I was very angry, and I had a lot of resentment, towards my parents. And I couldn't understand, why did my sister want to write that stupid book? And I also thought, why did my mother, refuse to, she didn't acknowledge any of it, and she didn't do anything about it. I mean, it was just the way that she treats crisis is really, really actually odd. Because I had a situation, where I had a horseback riding accident, actually, when I was in my 20s. And I broke my back. I was paralyzed from the waist down. Yeah. And I called my mom because the doctor told me to. And when I called her and I told her that I had a broken back, and her answer was, so, and I thought, well, I can't make it to my sister's wedding, or something. And then so that is kind of, and after that, after I went through rehabilitation, I had to go through 1 year of rehabilitation. Her friend, actually, a Japanese young mom, she folded 1,000 origami cranes for me. And it's a old Japanese tradition where family and friends get together and they fold these origami cranes to wish for recovery, And so she folded all these cranes for me, and she gave it to me. And then I went back to Boulder for physical rehabilitation. And I got this phone call, when I was upstairs in the kitchen, and it was from her. And she said that she was at the pool. And she said there's been an accident at the pool. And she said her son had dived in, young son, he was probably elementary school level. And he dived in and it hit his head. So I quickly told my mother, I said, get the phone, and so I could hear her. I couldn't walk, but I could hear her. And she just, oh, okay, and she hung up, and she came upstairs, and I said, well, aren't you going to go to the hospital? And she goes, oh, why? And you just, that's like a thing to do. So you got to go to the hospital. She goes, I don't know what hospital. So I had to look it up, and I finally found the hospital. And I told her, I said, go to the hospital. But still, she didn't know how to, she was like picking out clothes or whatever. So and then on top of that, the son died, and so I gave the cranes back to the son. But anyways, my mother, I recently realized that if you've heard of Stockholm Syndrome, what that means is it's kind of like somebody who's like Patty Hearst, where you're kind of brainwashed, into thinking that is an ideal situation. And so for her, when she escaped, from Japan to marry my father, of course, she didn't realize what she was up against, And she goes to Boulder, Colorado, which is like a hick town at that time. Our post mailbox was like 20 minutes away. We had to walk. She was isolated, in Boulder, Colorado. There was nobody that spoke Japanese. She was no Japanese food, nothing, right? And she was stuck with this severe, personality disorder husband and 5 kids. So her way of coping was basically the Stockholm Syndrome. So she was in complete denial of any of that would tarnish the reputation. And so she would not recognize that at all. Even though after, I began to realize that there was something wrong, and I confronted her with that. And I asked her, why didn't you protect us? And she just couldn't answer. She couldn't answer herself. She just broke down, I realize now, that is definitely cultural. She could not leave and take 5 kids with her back to Japan. She would lose face if she did that. Lose face means shame. It means being shunned from society and even suicide. So that's why in Japan, suicide is so high. So it's a huge problem, and it's not talked about. That's the thing, is that the cultural stigma is more destructive than the mental illness. If your son or daughter comes to you and asks you or tells you something that is kind of like a warning sign, maybe, for something is wrong, please don't just think that it's a teenage thing, or, brush it aside and just hope that it will go away. It might go away, but it's not. It's suppressed. And it needs to be addressed, because it will just grow inside that person and it will turn into a crisis. The therapist is like your hairdresser. I went through a number of therapists and I finally found one. Keep trying, because you know what? It really makes a huge difference.